All right, welcome to AAC. My name is Christopher Ross. I'm here with Eric Willis, and we are doing our episode 10. And let Eric introduce himself.
Eric here. Good evening, dear listeners.
I'd like to just to thank you for everything. We're growing even more. We're now almost 8,000 followers now, and we're getting actual GOP organizations following us now. So it's pretty cool. It's
that's
a very good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a very wonderful feeling. Like I said, I'd just like to thank you guys for everything. And we're going to talk about a subject today that's very controversial, but it needs to be talked about, and that is the topic of white guilt. And this white guilt that we have today is a psychological attack on white people, and it really affects white people, period, because they're too afraid to talk about things. They feel guilty because of what happened in the past, like with the Indians, with the black slaves, with all this stuff going on. They call it white privilege. They want to make you feel guilty for being white and being successful. That's what they're trying to do, and it's just all built on envy.
Well, yeah, just being white. They're making you feel guilty about being a Caucasian, like we should be ashamed of how we were born.
Yes, so I felt white, growing up, because I was, raised in this critical race theory age crap, and I felt guilty for being white. I really did when I was back in my liberal days. And it really affected my self-esteem, to tell you the truth, because I was always I always thought myself, we're just oppressors, and we're just bad people, and we're just profiting off of bad things, and that's what I believed. And it hurt my self-esteem, and it hurts a lot of other people's self-esteem. It's the truth.
Yeah, that's...
You looked at it as though to think that you're an oppressor and that you're just a racist, and then all your success derived from exploiting other races, which is nonsense to begin with, but that's what you believe.
Yeah, like you can't be redeemed. See, I never felt that. I was always proud of my blonde hair and blue eyes and my white skin. I never cared. I was always one of these people, if you don't like me, I don't give a fig either way.
See, I was the opposite. I actually did feel the white guilt, and it is what it is. I felt it.
Well, you don't feel it now. That's what matters.
No, we're going to. White guilt is counterproductive, and we're going to talk about the reason why we're doing it is because we want to help you get over this crap. It's bad for society, because we are the leaders of the Western world. If we are feeling down, if we feel that that we're not good enough, and that our self-esteem is affected, that we're not going to be our optimal levels. So we need to be at our optimal level, being confident and having high self-esteem, and knowing that we're the leaders of the Western world. We need to lead the world. We are the leaders of the Western world, and we need to have the right mentality to lead the Western world.
Well, yeah, we created the Western world.
So the bottom line is the Western world is the superior civilization. It doesn't matter if you look at all history. The Western world is the superior civilization. That cannot be even debated with. It is, and we have to be the leaders of the Western civilization, and we need to continue to be the leaders. That's what I'm trying to say. And so we need to have high self-esteem, high self-confidence, and we need to get over this white guilt.
Well, we have to talk about the most important thing is what it is it's to illegitimize whiteness altogether, which in itself is the most obvious form of racism against white people.
You have to understand it, because we're the last one standing. The bottom line is, when it comes to this world domination, this world communism, this one world order crap, we are the last people standing in their way. We're literally the last people. And
there's a lot of us.
There's a lot of us. So, because we're the only ones that will stand up to these people. There's nobody else left. They took over everything else. There's nobody standing but us. So they're doing everything they can to bring us down, to destroy us, to psychologically damage us, to do whatever they want. They look at you. Just think about how they, for the past since 9/11, they put all their energy on Muslims. Right now, nobody cares about the Muslims. Now, where is all their energy focused now?
Yeah.
On white people.
Yeah,
and that's the truth.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about this white guilt, and we want white people and just Westerners in general to get over this, so that we can stand in these people's way and we can protect the Western world from this communist onslaught.
Well, be proud of the fact that you're white and who you are, and don't apologize for it, and don't worry about if someone is going to call you racist or not. Chris and I have talked about this before. Like, just the word racism has lost all meaning
because they use it so often for every little thing that they talk about.
Well, I mean, look at white people as a whole. How many white people do you know that have actually been active participants in true racism?
It's very low.
Very low.
Very low.
You know, they love to,
low.
love to tell us like the biggest problem with our society is white supremacy. Well,
that's like the smallest problem in the world.
It's ridiculous. We have an administration telling people that the most dangerous people in American history are MAGA people that support Donald Trump. That is beyond insane.
It is beyond insane. But anyway, that's kind of our introduction, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, it does tie into white guilt a little bit, but it's very important. I actually have been studying critical race theory. This guy named Derek Bell, and I actually have his legal book. It's like a big, thick book. It's basically a really big book, and I'm reading it. But I actually learned a lot from it. Crazy to learn, but I actually did learn. One thing that I did kind of come across is this interest thing. For example, I had this major problem I had with the Democrat Party, which I have a lot of problems with the Democrat Party, of course, but the one major problem I have with the Democrat Party is the fact is that when the Black Lives Matter Antifa riots happened after the George Floyd thing, and how many people were, how they were in the streets burning and looting and tearing America down and doing all this stuff, literally burning buildings down, looting, murdering people, assaulting people, literally just tearing America down. Okay, it just took an emotional toll on me, and I was extremely angry at the situation. And what angered me more about the situation was that the Democrats in power didn't hold these people responsible for what happened. They didn't prosecute people for arson. They didn't prosecute people for destruction of property. They didn't prosecute people for assault and battery. They didn't prosecute people for rioting, for creating anarchy. They didn't do any of this.
Well, Chris, it was mostly peaceful.
It was mostly peaceful. It cost there was over $2 billion worth of damage.
Oh, that's what they call it.
It might have even been more.
Peaceful.
Yeah, but I had a major problem with that, and what really made me really angry is the fact that they didn't go after the people. Okay, that made me extremely angry
because they're giving them incentive to continue to do it.
Yes, that made me angry, and then what made me even more angry is that when the January 6th thing happened, a lot of the same people, that had the same mind state, they went tooth and nail after the January 6th people. Like, they literally crucified them all. I mean, they even did facial recognition. They did all these things to go after them. And it was just a complete double standard. And it caused such a grievance within me against the Democratic Party that I literally almost thought about, just like, this is not a legitimate government, and like this, I even thought about we should go to civil war over this.
Well, look what they're doing with the Supreme Court justices, encouraging them to go to their homes and almost threaten them. And how is that not an insurrection?
Yes, it's not an insurrection, and they're not prosecuting them for it.
That technically would be an insurrection.
Yes,
if you're going against the Supreme Court justice's decision because you don't like the way that it's going, that is the definition of an insurrection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even breaking. I saw a federal law. I posted a federal law that's showing that if you try to intimidate judges from their decision, that is considered a criminal offense.
Well, going to their houses, going to their residential house is against the law.
It's against the law, yes. So this is the stuff that made me really angry and made me built up a lot of resentment in me against the Democratic Party, and it built a lot of resentment in other people. Many other people felt the same way. I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of us that felt the same way.
I felt the same way.
So what I learned though is that I learned an important lesson. Okay, we had a lot of problems in our Facebook page. A lot of people were trolling us. A lot of people were, committing, saying things of violence. They're trying to create a disturbance in our page, and I had to start kicking these people out left and right. And then I had to actually create a rules page. I created a rules page that you can read. I'm sure most people are familiar with it, but rules that you cannot break. If you break them, you get kicked off. Okay, so I had to create the rules so that I'm not just kicking people off on a whim. You know what I'm saying? Even though I still will kick people off on a whim if I feel that you're harmful to us. I don't care what you think about it either. It's our page. We can do whatever the hell we want with it. But anyway, here's what I learned about this. Okay. Is that okay? For example, I'll give you something that I learned. This is the lesson that I learned. Okay, so there was a person criticizing me on our page, and calling me names, and we don't allow insults on our page because it's counterproductive to free speech. Because if we allow insults on our page, it destroys the aspect of free speech.
Well, name calling is juvenile anyway.
It's juvenile, so we don't allow name calling. Okay. So the problem was somebody was trolling us on our page, and one of our followers stood up for us and started insulting that person. Okay. And I was like, okay, so it's in my interest for that person to go after that person who was trolling us. It's in our interest, right? But he's still breaking the rule of insulting somebody.
It's the double-edged sword.
So that's what I learned. So that's what human nature is all about. And I learned this, and this is what's happening to America, is that, okay, I want you to think about this. Okay, I agree that he insulted that person that was causing me problems on the page. Okay, I agree with that. It's within my interest for that person to call that other person the insulting word. But he's breaking the rule of insulting. And even though it's in my interest that I like that he insulted that person, it's still breaking one of our rules. So even though it's in my interest for him to go and continue to insult the person that insulted us, that I still have to lay down the rule that you cannot insult people, even though it's in my interest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but did you talk to the guy about it?
Yes, I did. But it's
what did he say?
He basically stopped, I think. But the big thing about it is that I didn't want to do it. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's in my interest.
Yeah.
And if you apply that principle everywhere, it's the same principle. Okay. We look at Antifa and we look at Black Lives Matter. These people are definitely in line with the Democratic Party, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when they're acting within the Democrat Party, even though they're violating the law, they're still in the interest of the Democrat Party. So you have to understand that they don't want to go against them because they're literally fulfilling their interests. So it's just human nature. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So and then when I thought about the January 6th people, the reason why the Republicans don't want to go. So if you talk to most Republicans, they'll say, most of the January 6th people, they'll mostly say that, hey, these people were not that bad. We're not bad people. They were not insurrectionists. They were not terrorists. They were just angry. They were just acting out. We should just go easy on them, right? Because they were acting within the Republican interests. You see what I'm saying? So we don't want to go after people that are within our interests. And that's what I learned. So what I learned from this whole situation is that even though somebody's acting within your interests and they're violating the law, you have to go after that person anyway.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's not easy. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a hard thing to do for human beings to do. So any district attorney that's listening to us, any judge that's listening to us, please understand, any politician that's listening to us, for America to work, if you violate the law, we have to hold people accountable no matter who they are. If they're on the right, if they're within your interest, they're against your interest, we have to hold the law equally against all people. We cannot not prosecute people because, for example, like what happened in Portland, okay, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Portland is basically overrun by Democrats, and it's literally a shithole. I'm sorry, I don't want to swear, but it's literally one of the worst cities in America.
Extremist.
It's extreme. So what happened was that Democrats and the Republicans went down there to go speak to them, and Antifa showed up and used physical violence to get the Republicans out. And the police never showed up till the very last moment, because you have to understand that that even though Antifa was breaking the law, they were still acting with the interest of the Democratic Party. So they wanted it, and because it's within their interest, they didn't prosecute. And if we understand that, then we understand that that's human nature. Human nature, we don't want to go after people that that we agree with, that are acting with their own interests. But we have to get over ourselves and prosecute these people anyway, even if they align with your own interests in your own political party. We have to.
Well, think about what you're talking about right now. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying, but look at the Democratic Party as a whole, and we know that the Democrats have been taken over by radical leftists. But what you're saying is we have a party that has Antifa and Black Lives Matter's interest in their best interest. What does that say about that political party?
That's a bad political party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why and I shouldn't joke, but we have to make light, this whole craziness with burning down cities and calling it mostly peaceful. And there's been so many memes made where you see cities on fire, buildings on fire, and they're calling it mostly peaceful.
It's terrible.
This needs to be exposed, all of it. And that's what Chris and I are trying to do, is just expose the truth. If the truth were on the left, we would be on the left, but it seems to be on the right, and that's where we are.
So the bottom line is that what I'm telling Democrats today, for any Democrats that are rational, if you want to stay in power, if you guys want to like literally be a legitimate party, you have to start prosecuting the people that violate the law, even if you agree with them. You have to, because if we don't, we're not going to have a country. And like I said, even the other way around, if Republicans are out there doing criminal things to Democrats, we have to hold those people accountable.
Well, if you don't, what's the point of the law in the first place?
Exactly. The law has to be applied equally to everybody. It does. You cannot pick and choose when you're going to use the law, when it's on your side, when it's not on your side. It has to be used. It has to be used blindly into everybody.
It almost sounds like a form of nepotism.
It's terrible. It is what it is. And I learned this, and I now I kind of understand that's kind of how human nature acts. That we don't want to do this. We don't want to get over this. It's hard. It was hard for me to discipline that person that was acting with my own interest on my page. But technically, he's still breaking the rule, even though he's acting with my own interest.
Yeah.
So I had to do something. So this is my message to any rational person in the government. You have to start prosecuting people, even if you agree with them. Because if you don't, it's just going to cause a grievance that's going to destroy our country. If we don't do this, both sides have to do this. Both sides. If some Republican terrorist wants to do something evil and bad, that person should be prosecuted. I know it sounds terrible. It is what it is. If we don't, we're not going to have a country anymore.
I don't think it sounds terrible at all. It's what makes sense. That's what the rule of law is. It doesn't matter if it's your mom or someone that you've never met.
So that I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit because that's something that's been on my mind. And let's get into the next topic.